As a veteran, patriot, and American, September 11th resonates strongly with me. I saw many posts yesterday about God not being there, that God left us on that day, that God had even abandoned us. And I want to offer a different perspective of that sentiment. For those who feel that way, I completely understand the emotion, and have even felt that way in my own life during the darkest of times. But through that pain, I learned these things. 1, God has never promised us comfort and peace in this life. He promised it in Him and in heaven, but not here. John 16:33, I have told you these things, so that in me you may have peace. In this world you will have trouble, but take heart. I have overcome the world. Second, I learned that God's plan is much greater than we are. Proverbs 19:21. Many are the plans in the mind of a man, but it is the purpose of the Lord that will stand. It's pretty cut and dry, my friends. God's plan is greater than ours, and at times we simply can't comprehend it. Third, I learned that God sends warriors in His name to eradicate evil from the earth. Jeremiah 51:20-24. You are my war club, my weapon for battle. With you I shatter nations. With you I destroy kingdoms. With you I shatter horse and rider. With you I shatter chariot and driver. With you I shatter man and woman. With you I shatter old man and youth. With you I shatter young man and young woman. With you I shatter shepherd and flock. With you I shatter farmer and oxen. With you I shatter governors and officials. Before your eyes I will repay Babylon and all who live in Babylonia for all the wrong they have done in Zion, declares the Lord. If that is not what was done in the global war on terror, then well, I must just be an old, confused warrior. You see, God often works in ways that we cannot understand. It's a larger picture of which we're only a tiny, tiny brushstroke. Many people tragically died that day. Families lost loved ones. And many who survived struggled and are still struggling with the grief and memory of that day. But there were others. Those who normally would have been there. Those who were somehow spared by unusual events, preventing them from being where they would normally be, where they expected to be. Makes you wonder if they're redirected for a different purpose at another time. Or simply, were they there to remind us of God's grace and mercy, even when the plan causes us tragedy? Perhaps God desperately needed to get our attention. Can you recall how we all came together around the world, every race, every class? Do you remember the patriotism and the surge of patriotism in the United States and in other countries as well? And I recall that most of us, we supported the end of terrorism at that time. It was fresh. Our wounds were open and bleeding. We needed to stop it. You have to think maybe perhaps some far greater evil was coming. And through the changes made and the efforts around the world, a greater act of terrorism was avoided, was held at bay for 20 years. Maybe God needed those soldiers, just as in Jeremiah 51. And many nations took part in the war on terror, not only the U.S. When loss and grief impacts us directly, it is hard to accept that there's a greater plan and that God is still there. But I found that once you do, carrying the burden of your cross becomes a much lighter weight to bear. Godspeed, my friends. Do not lose your focus. Do not lose our unity. And do not forget that together we are far stronger than we are alone. Take a moment today to pray. Look to God. And each day recognize the blessings in life. They'll help you weather the storms.